disadvantage of this process with concession card fine will barely affect their total income. Someone on concession this files and is given this card and fined and punishment for being poor and on concession rather than misusing its purpose. The issue the government take with this bill is a lack of consideration of independency this bill promotes. Its limitations of travel and dubbing of services is essential to time over weekends, as well as its lack of scope for regional communities. I asked the Honourable Member Saxon how useful a free trip on the Mildura train line would be. Support and its promotion of otherness from its resources being wasted on new monkey cards being created for people on concessions. While this bill has heart, it lacks the clarity of mind that someone who has experienced these issues firsthand would offer and misses the mark on its honest intentions. Must we emphasise the importance of unpassable.
Thank you, Member. I call on the Honourable Member Mazzari.
Thank you, President. The Honourable Member Mazzari. With the cost of living skyrocketing for so many Victorians, concession card holders are struggling the most. However, they do not have access to sufficient funds to top up their mortgages and pay for their journeys. In some cases, they travel with taking risk of being cut and fined. Now, therefore, it's the time for the government to support the people who have limited access to income, including students, pensioners, and those with disabilities. We're giving them the opportunity to use public transport and access the essential services that they need. President, last night while I was preparing for my speech, I had the opportunity to visit the PTV website and work the current fines and charges. Found out that if someone failed to produce their wallet ticket while they're traveling, the cost for that, the fine for that would be $273 for an adult and $91 for children. Hence, my question from the government is, if someone is not even able to top up their MIT and they are taking this risk to travel without topping up their MIT, how they would be able to pay for their fines? President, this bill will not only provide free access to the public transport, but this bill will also bring those who have limited access to the income, bring them back into their daily life. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. I call on the Honourable Member Ramsey.
Thank you, President. The Honourable Member Ramsey, Jesse Ramsey. Just before, I'd just like to quickly word with you in acknowledgement of traditional custodians of the land and extend my acknowledgement to members, First Nations people who are here with us today. But what a cute little contribution from my good friend, the member Hughes. He's got up here and spruced the supposed merits of the bill, but he's forgotten the grim reaper, and that is the restrictions. The bill, by its very nature, is exclusive. Though it attempts to provide financial relief to those who need it most, it is riddled with limitations which makes any progress effectively redundant. At first glance, the bill seems like an initiative that would encourage concession card holders to get out and about. But after viewing clause 6.1, the House would see the harsh reality of the bill, that is, it only applies to services which are arbitrarily deemed essential. The government has the gall to limit places concession card holders can travel free of charge under this bill, further widening the gap of inequality. Those of us on this side believe that this clause reduces the bill as being strictly and oddly selective, and that the restriction on reasons for travel will only bake in disparity among struggling communities. You want to visit family? Sorry. You want to watch a movie at the cinema? Sorry. You want to go out to the city and spend some money to support our economy? Why on earth should you be able to do that? That's the view of those opposite. These drawbacks, in conjunction with random time limitations and a nightmarish exemption application process, get in the way of the important progress this bill seeks to achieve. It is our job to take the pressure off those doing it tough, but the provisions set out by this bill will only add to the pressure of navigating the public transport system, which we all know can be difficult as is. Now, the bill has a good premise and wants to aim to take the pressure off concession card holders. In reality, all it will do is provide them with more restrictive barriers. And we know on this side that is what they need least.
Thank you, Member. I call on the Honourable Member Tate.
Sorry, I'll be speaking for.
Honourable Member.
Honourable Member Aaron this bill also has positive economic impacts as well as social impacts in this setting. Firstly, it will open up job opportunities in low-income areas where already disadvantaged youth will be given the opportunity to work in high-income areas without having to incur any commuting costs. This will more than cover the expenses incurred by the government by stimulating our economy, as well as also taking steps to solve the job crisis which is currently plaguing our businesses in Melbourne CBD. What? Got it. Also, tourism income from small towns and elderly will be boosted. Currently, what's called Melbourne and Victoria works on the zone system. The higher the difference in numbers of zones, the higher the cost incurred to actually travel with the mic. For example, if you were to travel from zone 1 to zone 2, it would cost you $2.40 under the concession scheme. However, if you were to travel from zones 13 to zones 1, it would cost you $17 under the current concession scheme. So, while some of these zones are too far away for people to make a work commute, it will still allow the option for those who consider tourism in that area who haven't already done so, due to the limitations present in their areas. I'd like for you to step into the shoes of a young country boy for a second. Let's call him Tim. Let's say you just barely passed year 12. The only jobs in your area are coal and mining, and you're forced to support your grandparents who are elder because they raised you. And the nearest city centre is 2 hours away. If he had to commute every day, it would cost him $15 going and $15 coming back. That's almost an hour of his pay.
Reminder of time, remember?
I'll wrap it up. By passing this bill, we are making sure that people like him have a chance in the current economy to thrive as we do now as privileged citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. I call on the Honourable Member Refuter. Refuter?
The Honourable Member some might contend with different identifiable may might be valid, but that expects the utilization and we equally accommodated of these different cards to treat individuals similarly and decently, yet it results in unnecessary expenditure on certain cards instead of utilizing their regardless of this law can not go in for rather than minimizing the burden of the population because separate the trees people unfairly as individuals might feel singled out and placed out of considerable protection with various cards that make them recognizable and feel marginalized and aggressive to specific persons that they like. Some may believe that an alternative group might be shaped by using it to get them allow me to request the House to imagine this matter that you're a person who is from a disadvantaged background and must have an alternative mining card that you would need to carry around in a train or camp during peak hour times. And how would you feel if you got on the books because of your financial background? As a result, the bill should accept an alternative arrangement that does not exclude people from society while being inclusive of all driven through all monetary foundations. Like giving mining cards that are same arrangement with engravers of finance that informs officers that they are a concession cover for an indistinguishable shade of mining card that doesn't have any strength.
Thank you, Member. I'd also like to draw the Chamber's attention to a guest in the gallery, City Member for Western Victoria, Mr. Andy Medic. Welcome, Mr. Medic. I believe who will be chairing the future session this afternoon. I now call on Honourable Member Dorset.
President, Your Honourable Member Ray Dorset. Free public transport for concession card holders will have extraordinary benefits for individuals of our community, particularly those who have barriers to enable their access to independence. My mother has had 6 strokes. She's been left with an acquired brain injury, as well as riddled with mental health issues from this experience. It's been a really heartbreaking time to watch the self-esteem and confidence of my own mother deplete before my eyes due to the lost independence as a result of her condition. This API see my mother step back from full-time work, reducing her hours from 38 to less than 15, and this is on her good weeks. The right to drive, of course, was stripped of my mother, meaning I too had to step away from my means of employment to care for her, including be her means of transport. As a household who has experienced poverty firsthand, the reduction of working hours took a toll on both my mother and myself. Public transport, due to the expense, is not a viable option. This is just one example of many instances where the cost of public transport is a barrier to Victorians and their right to their own independence. There is no reason why this bill should not pass, as everyone deserves the right to accessible transport so that they can also have access to a meaningful life and fulfill their daily duties. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. I call on Honourable Member Halford.
President, Honourable Member Confer. First of all, I'd like to say I'm sorry about my mother. I'm not a member. But there is still a crucial portion of Victoria that I've forgotten in the provision today. By explicitly stating certain groups who are covered, the position leaves out other vulnerable couples, such as Victorians experiencing homelessness, international students, and other members of CLD communities. These are just more barriers that will ensure true equality is not achieved. It is counterintuitive for the opposition to pick up certain groups that they choose to support and leave others behind. If the opposition was serious about easing travel costs for vulnerable Victorians, it would investigate opportunities to make life easier for all vulnerable couples, not just some. Whilst we support every opportunity to include the struggling to include those struggling financially, we fundamentally believe support could follow, and must follow, in order to make any real difference. There are so many international students, so many homeless Victorians, and so many CLD community members who are struggling to navigate and pay for public transport, but due to the bill's concession cost constraints, they will be left behind. So, of course, we could never get in the way of reform designed to ease financial pressures. However, the selective nature of the bill and the constraint that arise make it seem that more harm in the form of prejudice and inequality will be done than good. We currently have vulnerable couples who aren't eligible for concession cards, but who are screaming for assistance so that they can travel more freely. Well, unfortunately, this bill oddly is frivolous in determining who is worthy of such assistance. Public transport is a fundamental right in Victoria, and if it is to be made more accessible, discrimination should not determine who gets much needed. Thank you.
I call on the Honourable Member 2. Andrea 2.
The Honourable Member Andrea San Diego. The world is in a state of climate emergency. It is crucial that we have to take urgent action now. A report by the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning in 2019 indicated that road transport makes up 87.5% of Victoria's greenhouse emissions. This number is too high. However, I do believe that as a society, we want the best for the planet, especially young people. The problem lies within accessibility. To be choosing to be green is a privilege. I am a healthcare card holder and therefore a concession card holder. I usually drive myself to uni because it's quicker, and I also don't want to pay the $4 weekly. And this is just for one day. This might seem like a small amount to some people, but not when I have to be there 5 times a week. So that's $22.50. Every week, my budget for spending is $100. So now that's 22.5% of my spending gone, just to be exact. I also recognize and acknowledge that I am in a decent position. My life is quite comfortable in comparison to some. There are other folks in far more difficult positions than me. However, speaking for myself as a university student living out of home, Having the additional burden of paying for public transport while balancing full-time studies, 2 jobs, social life, paying my rent, my bills, keeping up with my health and living in general is very stressful. It's also very, very, very expensive. Not only that, but I am faced with the everyday dilemma of choosing between not using my car to reduce my environmental impact or having extra money for my week so I can live. I believe that passing this bill can contribute to reducing Victoria's carbon footprint. Victorians are trying their best to help to spend the planet. What can we do in position of power to make it easier for our citizens? Make public transport for concession card holders free.
Thank you, Honourable Member Santiago. Apologies for the name confusion. We had a small issue between our run sheet and our city plan. Apologies. I now call on Honourable Member Hume.
President, the Honourable Member, Anna George. First, I would like to address the Honourable Member's point about carbon footprint. Well, and costs. Well, although public transport does cost money right now for concession card holders, a car costs way, way more money than taking public transport. And not only do you have to pay for the car, one also has to pay for the petrol, the maintenance, and, well, basically it's more expensive to drive than it is to take public transport at this stage. And to continue, to extend our concerns about this bill, we would like to draw attention to clause 4.2. The clear lack of consideration for concession card holders in regional communities is staggering. Asking an already disadvantaged group to provide 3 forms of identification is ludicrous. It reeks of privilege and lack of concern for treating concession card holders as normal people. It also fails to address what happens if a concession card holder fails to present these documents at a train station. Are we going to punish a grandmother who has poor eyesight and grab the wrong form and force her to miss her appointment? Or an out-of-home person who lives rurally but not having access to their documents? This bill does so little to actively support our rural communities and is just asking to punish them with a nonsense clause about providing more than necessary documentation.
Member, I call on the Honourable Member Holmes.
President, the Honourable Member Holmes. I'd like to echo the points made by my honourable friends and say that concession card holders are often from lower socio-economic backgrounds. The luxuries that many members of this House today enjoy, a working car, a fully topped-up Nike, enough money to pay the bills, they simply often don't have. Honourable members, how can they get to work if their car is broken down and there's no money left to pay for a Nike, as so often is the case with concession card holders? They either miss out on a large portion or all of their shifts and thereby lose the ability to put food on the table, or they have to brave the nefarious Nike inspectors and their exorbitant fines. That is the situation currently, and that is the situation this bill seeks to remedy. By making public transport free to concession card holders, we can grant them such transformative independence. Sure, that's worth a few dollars. Never again shall a concession card holder choose between food on the table or potentially costing hundreds of dollars in fines. And it's not just work that will be opened up to concession card holders. Medical appointments, previously unreachable for concession card holders, will now become available. Health will now become a much more affordable process, reducing ill health and encouraging preventative medicine. This, just one of the tremendous effects of this bill, demonstrates the transformative effect on people's lives that the enabling of such independence can have. We've heard that any progress made in this bill from members opposite, we've heard that any progress made in this bill is redundant. Well, I don't think that people's health is redundant. I don't think getting people to work so they can put food on their table is redundant. Can I just say, and I hope the House will indulge me, we've had a lot of criticism from the government today about the supposed exclusionary effects of this bill. But where are the concrete alternatives to this bill? Where are their methods for means testing appropriate recipients of free public transport? Lots of basic criticism from the benches opposite, but not a lot of creativity, not a lot of creativity. Honourable members, The question is today, will you have those core members of our community and grant them the kind of transformative independence that can change their lives forever?
Thank you, Member. I call on the Honourable Member to speak.
President, the Honourable Member Dimitri Rajapaksa. I want to bring the Chamber's attention to subclause 6.3 that mentions the exemption process, but fails to describe how this will be achieved in an inclusive or culturally sensitive manner. Different cohorts ranging from culturally and linguistically diverse to seniors can be eligible for a concession card, but nowhere in this bill has the opposition considered the support services necessary to aid applicants, or the training needed to upskill staff at these processing hubs to adequately fit to the unique needs of these cohorts. Overall, the opposition lacks accountability. With any government subsidization program, evaluation is key to the sustainability. However, evaluation processes are clearly absent in this bill. Which moves me to my next point. Will this change or alteration to the system be financially feasible? According to the 2018-2019 ETB annual report, 194 million trips were taken on concession fares. That's 194 million trips that need to become free under this bill. But the daily concession fare is $4.60, and that incurs an estimated loss of $890 million. If the proposed program is not financially viable, it might become a temporary program that has wasted valuable tax dollars, man hours, and monetary reserves. It's just common sense that a loss of $890 million on a mere trial is a waste of money. I implore my fellow honourable members to recognise the opposition's blatant disregard for the accessibility, effectivity, and financial feasibility of the proposed bill.
Thank you, Member. The floor is now open. Any member who has not yet spoken may seek the call. Member.
Thank you, President. Honourable Member Wang. Members opposite put this bill as being oppressive or restrictive, and quite frankly, this couldn't be any further from the truth. This pandemic has exposed to us the importance of essential services, and it's also shown us that the definition of what constitutes an essential service is much more than you think. Retail, for instance, is an essential service. Cleaning, for instance, is an essential service, and we need to be able to ensure that people can not only access these services either as a worker or as a client, because quite frankly, these are services that are necessary in order to ensure the health and well-being of society and in order to keep society ticking along. It's not enough to simply say we're running essential workers or essential services. We've got to back up with action, and that is what this bill does. And also, the very basic premise of this bill of ensuring access, of ensuring more favourable financial outcomes for concession card holders, this is not without precedent. It simply takes us one step further. If you've never raised objections towards people getting discounted museum tickets, why would you object to this now when this is all about including a society who's vulnerable to systemic back into the community, opening up opportunities for them while simultaneously reducing our carbon footprint? If you want to know what degrading is being pulled up, is one day getting your concession card, getting pulled aside by a market inspector and getting fined, even though it's something that you already, you should be entitled to cover a concession fee, but you have it in the wrong place at the wrong time. That is what we call degrading. Having a concession right in itself is not degrading. With the increasing cost of living that we have experienced right here, right now, we need to support our vulnerable members of society more than ever, and this is what this bill does. And equality will always require investment. This is it. This is an investment into our future for the short term and long term, something that will make society better in the short term and the long term.
President, the Honourable Member Roberts. How can you not include refugees or people that cannot obtain a healthcare card in the first place? Yeah. You need to have a stable address to obtain a healthcare card. If you're experiencing homelessness or experiencing disadvantage, how can you obtain a healthcare card? Yeah. You do not explicitly mention the that people on Blue Line can access this. You know, to say it's metropolitan Melbourne, the marquee part. Therefore, cutting out a whole population of people that are experiencing disadvantage in rural Victoria.
Thank you.
President, the Honourable Member over to the side. Now, I'd just like to get into a few points that the government made in their speeches, because, in my opinion, they seem to be systematically flawed. Now, the Honourable Member Calvin's point that homeless people would be ineligible was simply wrong. Has the Honourable Member Calvin taken one look at the bill? I would like to direct the House's attention to clause 5.1, subsection B, where it references the fact that the Centrelink model is included. So therefore, most homeless people, who I would assume would be recipients of Centrelink welfare, will be eligible. It's as simple as that. At the end of the day, the Honourable Member Calvin made a clear, negligible decision in proving affluent. Furthermore, the mention that international students would not be included in this program is unfair, is simply as well incorrect, in my opinion, as international students are clearly at an advantage to other students in this country, as they have been able to come to our country. How are we supposed to not prioritise people in our own state over international students? To me, this seems to be a clear lack of narrative. Furthermore, the $890 million cost outlined by the government, we agree, it is a cost. It's a heavy cost. But let's also focus on the economy. Let's also focus on the fact that this government was doling out checks to everyone to stimulate the economy. Would this not stimulate the economy? I'm sorry, but this seems to be a Victorian dining program for good. Thank you.
President, the Honourable Member Mary Hoy. Now, can I please draw the House's attention to clause 7? Fines are still included within this bill. In fact, it is either an on-the-spot penalty fine or an infringement notice. Now, we have heard from both sides of the chamber today on the classist disgrace that are fines. Yet I ask the chamber why that fines are still included within this bill, even after they have repeatedly stated their disapproval. Thank you, Member.
President, Honourable Member Burns, as the Honourable Member Rabin Syed has tried to tell you that everyone is eligible for a healthcare card, our government knows that this is not true. But furthermore, the process for the healthcare card can take up to 6 months. But I ask, what is the opposition doing about those people in time? Furthermore, I'd like to bring your attention to clause 6.2. I want to ask the opposition, what were they thinking with the strange and small time limitation of 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday? This small and useless discrimination just furthers otherness. It also provides useless bureaucracy and more loopholes that already limited people to jump through.
Well said. President, the Honourable Member is irreverent. This government refuses to endorse such a discriminatory, ignorant bill. This idea promotes inclusion, yet their meagre attempts to actualise this vision fall short to all the values they have testified towards today. The values they presented thus far. I'd like to highlight the further barriers presented by the Honourable Member Dorset's example that she used. Thank you for sharing such an intimate part of your life with us, and we acknowledge the fact that that would have been very personal for you. However, would the Honourable Member want her mother the freedom for coffee and the ability to join her own life? Of course, that's something that we want to push. That's something that any decent person deserves. But people like your mother deserve the right to access this card and then not be limited to essential services.
She should deserve this no matter what. Her access to her freedom to travel around should not be limited by such a bill as this. At the end of the day, the Honourable Member needs to recognise that such an exclusive bill should not be endorsed, because in order to take the steps forward into the future, like the Honourable Member Wang has spoken of, the honourable steps need to be honourable steps that are inclusive of everyone. If you want to talk about inclusivity, if you want to talk about progress, you need to show that in your bill, and that's something you simply failed to do. In the nicest way possible, you need to have a rethink, and the government has no intention of supporting this bill.
Thank you, Member.
President, the Honourable Member Tom Saxton. Progress. Is this progress? I have heard only two real reasons and theories of logic against this bill. One is the cost, and I would argue here first. If your question is on the cost of this bill and reducing the amount of fines that are given to concession holders, the amount of income that they generate for the state, let me ask you this. Are you so craven to continue to collect money from the poorest in our communities? Why not go after the richest corporations and societies rather than plaguing and harassing uni students? I see it every day at my university. I see all the rights officers for the current concession cost of the bill. Secondly, their second argument is that this does not go far enough. This does not go far enough. Do you know what? I agree with you. I completely agree with you. We need more than this bill, but does this bill progress from where we are currently with our current laws? You bet it does. Now look, if this bill doesn't progress from our current laws and the current situation that we have in Victoria for concession card holders and the current inequities and difficulties of cost, then call me Buzz. Call me Buzz, because I must be a Martian astronaut to the members of the Senate. I must be a Martian astronaut, or this bill does progress. It's one or the other, and quite frankly, while I would like to go into space, I am not a Martian astronaut, and I probably won't be in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
President, Honourable Member Holly Ellis, I'd like to address the limitations of clause 6.1. I myself am living in regional Victoria in Ballarat. I go to Deakin University in Bearwood. That's 3 hours travel. No way am I travelling 3 hours for oftentimes needed for only 1 hour at uni. And sorry. No way am I travelling all the way to uni and not stopping to have a coffee, have a little shop, seeing friends while I'm already down there. I would like to ask the opposition, how are we to prove what essential services and how people are travelling?
Thank you, Member. Are there any further members seeking the call?
President, the Honourable Member Sarah Matthews. This bill seems to be all about going to and from work. It's all about work, work, and work. But life is more than work. You know, what creates otherness more than preventing people from activities which is just as important as work, except in this bill, essential services does not apply to what some people may call non-essential services, such as recreational or social activities.
Honourable Member. Any further members seeking the call? Honourable Member.
President, the Honourable Member Ashworth and Law. Is the Honourable Member Hoy question clause 7 relating to including fines in this bill? As my colleague, the Honourable Member Hughes, has already stated, that this clause is, and I quote, individuals who are found to be using this service fraudulently. Is the government suggesting that taking advantage of a system that aims to support people is okay?
Yes.
President, honored member of Katie Salami, I am a disadvantaged young individual. I have a disability. I'm currently on a concession card, but I do not have a fixed address. I live with my grandmother in a rural area. I do not have a fixed address. I do not get pension benefits. This should greatly affect me because I have to come down to different places like Melbourne all the time just to do programs like this and travel to benefit stuff that will help me in the long run, help my resume, help me get better jobs. But this bill won't help me at all. I wouldn't be able to access this bill. I wouldn't be able to get a healthcare card because, as everyone has mentioned on the opposition side, you need a healthcare card. You also need a fixed address. This is not helping the individuals who are out of home without parents like I am.
Thank you, Member. Member Chair.
President, the Honourable Member Hume, I would like to talk about the international students. Why do we exclude international students? I am an international student, and I already paid lots of more school fees. And if my family are buying a house, they need to pay more taxes. So why exclude the international students from this program? I think international students should need more priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? On that note, I'd like to call on the sponsor of the bill for their right of reply.
President, Honourable Member Hughes. And that was, well, is that on right? We've heard a lot of flimsy arguments today, and it's only come in two ways. The cost of the bill, and then if the bill doesn't go far enough. We decide. If we would expand the bill, it would cost more, basically economics. But now, I want to outline one thing I did in my main sponsor speech. For a student with a concession card in Zone 1, it will cost over the average 200 days per school year, it will cost $552 over 1 year. That's normal. You're paying zero if you still passes. Zero. In Zone 2, it will cost $322, and that's normal. And there's upwards of cost of almost $500, which will be gone if this bill passes. So this is, again, I will reiterate this as many times as I can. This is not a small thing. This is a giant thing. We're leaping over the Grand Canyon with this bill. And this is the government likes to talk about inclusivity. At this moment, the system does not work. And this is the most inclusive bill in reference to public transport that has been before. This is the most inclusive bill. This is allowing. I've heard there needs to be more, and then there's the cost again. It's the same. Pick a side. God, it's happened twice. Jeez. Come on, pick a side. I'll quickly end this off by saying, again, it's creating fairness, it's allowing those concession card holders here in Victoria who may be financially disadvantaged, who may not have the best time of life economically to be stress-free when they're travelling on public transport in either regional Victoria or metropolitan Victoria, so that they can get to those essential services. Which isn't limited to jobs, those essential services, picking up groceries from the supermarket, and most importantly, visiting the doctor.
Thank you, Honourable Member Hughes, and all members for their contribution to debate on this bill. The question is that the Free Public Transport for Concession Card Holders Bill 2022 be now read a second and a third time. All those of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. I think the ayes have it. Division required. Ring the bell, please. Lock the doors. The House will divide on the question that the Free Public Transport for Concession Card Holders Bill 2022 be read a second and a third time. I ask the clerk to record the votes. I ask those members who are voting aye to please stand in their place. Thank you, members. Please resume your seats. I ask all those members who are voting no to please stand in their place. Please resume your seats. The result of the division is ayes 25, noes 10. Therefore, it is resolved in the affirmative and the bill is passed. That brings our formal proceedings for my session to a close. I'd like to thank everyone for a really